Hey folks, and welcome back to West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. Seen a couple of the other Leeds United content creators giving ratings for the new players that have come in this season. We made 10 new signings at the start of the season, and Jack Harrison came back after being on loan for the previous couple of seasons out at Everton. So effectively 11 new players for this current season, not including any youth players that may have had the odd appearance so far from the under-21s. So I thought I'd do the same. I'll just give a very straightforward rating out of 10 so far, based on what they've done up to now, and in some cases what they haven't done. So this isn't going to be a stupidly long video. Let's start with Lucas Perry. He came in as the number one. Melier got relegated to the number 3 choice goalkeeper, which obviously relegated Cairns to number 4, with Darlow being the second choice goalkeeper. Perry came in for about £15 million, and while he's shown glimpses of what he can do, he's certainly not hit the ground running like, what you would imagine Brazil's third choice goalkeeper would be, behind the likes of Becker and Ederson. He doesn't utilise that long throw of his anywhere near enough, and I think this is partially down to the Leeds goalkeeping coach Ed Wootton and Daniel Farker himself probably telling Perry not to do it, which I find bizarre because it's one of his best attributes. So, has he been any worse than Darlow when Darlow started? I don't think so, but that's not saying very much. So I'm going to give Perry a 5 out of 10, but with the hope that he might, improve as the season goes on, depending on what happens, with the manager and anything else. Moving on to James Justin. He can obviously cover both flanks, but we'll put him in at right back because we've got Goodmanson at left back. Justin's only come on a couple of appearances so far. Hasn't done a vast amount wrong when he's come on. I just don't think he's done a vast amount right either, in a sense. He hasn't really impacted games, but again, not necessarily his fault because he has had very limited game time. So on that basis, I'll give him a 5.5 out of 10, just because we haven't seen anything of him yet, which again is not on him. He's not getting ahead of Jayden Bogle anytime soon. Moving on to Sebastian Bournou. Justin was bought for £8 million. Oh yeah, we did just give a rating for him, yeah. So I would say that £8 million for Justin is a bit steep for a backup fullback, but again, that's not Justin's fault. He doesn't dictate the price that he moves a club from a club. That's negotiated between the two clubs. So while £8 million for a backup fullback is a little steep, for the level that we're currently at, the price tag is not James Justin's fault. So I think 5.5 is fair on the basis that we haven't seen enough of him just yet. Sebastian Bournou, a similar situation really. He's literally only played one match against a very youthful and a very poor Sheffield Wednesday side in the Cup, and he didn't do very well. Has he been given a lot of opportunity? No. Has he been able to dislodge the likes of Joe Rodon? Absolutely not. And has he been fit enough for selection? Nowhere near as much as we would have liked. So, for 5 million as a backup, it's 3 million cheaper than Justin. But the injury record's not good, whereas Justin has been available. He just hasn't been able to get into the team, whereas Bornau has spent a fair chunk of this season injured. So, I mean, how do you rate someone that's hardly played? Again, the 5 million that was paid for him, that's not any slant on Bornau himself. He doesn't dictate the price. And again, it's such a small sample size that we've seen of him in a Leeds shirt so far, albeit it was very poor. And you could argue that Joe Rodon has been one of our better players this season, so has Bornau got any chance of getting into the lineup? Even if he was fit? Probably not. So for now, I'll give Bornau it's a very generous 5, or shall I give him a 4? The only game he played, virtually the entire team was crap. They played really poorly against a very low-key Sheffield Wednesday team. But for such a small sample size, I mean, Justin's played more minutes than Bornau so far, and that's saying something considering Justin hasn't played that much. Let me know in the comments below. Should Seb Bornau be on a 4, a 5, or even a 4.5? You know what? I'll compromise. I'll go 4.5, which again is still a little generous considering we've said a 5 for Perry so far. I think we went 5.5 for Justin, didn't we? So I'll go 4.5 for Bornau. It's a difficult one to judge. Yakabiol didn't start the season because of a suspension that he picked up with Udinese in Serie A. Pascal Strout initially had the left centre-back position. After we conceded 6 goals in 3 games at one point, I believe, if I remember rightly, that's the point then when Yakabiol came in. And at that point then we conceded even more goals. It's not good. And since then Pascal Strout's come back in. So I don't think it's as harsh to give Biol a 4.5 because he was supposed to come in to be a better player than Strout. And I don't, he played about 4 or 5 consecutive games and didn't do enough to hold his place down. And that's why Pascal's come back in. So I don't think it's too harsh to give Biol a 4.5 on that basis. Moving on to Gabby Goodmanson. For me, the best signing that we've made out of this bunch. Signed for 11 million quid. I think it's a snip. Personally, I think he will turn out to be a very good player. Yes, he made a really uncharacteristic error in the bizarre own goal that happened against Fulham. But I think there's been a lot of Goodmanson's overall play that has been pretty good so far. So I'm going to give Goodmanson a 7. And I think there's potential for it to be even higher. I really think we've got a very good left back on his hands there. Again, he's been signed as an upgrade to Junior Firpo, and he's maybe slightly less than Firpo from an attacking point of view, but certainly defensively is better than Firpo at Premier League level at least, or just about. I mean, it's hard to grade that because we have conceded a lot of goals recently, but But I've seen enough from Gudmundsson's game so far. I've seen enough to be of the belief that Gabriel Gudmundsson will be a very good left back for Leeds this season, once the 38 games have been played. So I think a 7's fair. Moving on to Jack Harrison, as I say, he's new for Leeds United for this season because he hasn't played for Leeds in the previous 2 seasons. He's been a backup winger and usually deployed on the left rather than the right, which is his natural side. But just for the purpose of this exercise, he's on the right. The few sub-appearances that he's made have not been that fruitful. I think part of this is down to the coaching, because we've seen in the past that Harrison can be a very capable winger at this level. His best return in a Leeds shirt in the Premier League was 8 goals and 8 assists in 1 season. Is Harrison the same player as he was back then? No, nowhere near. But this has to be down. This at least partially has to be down to the coaching that's coming from Farker and his team, and his coaching team. It's not getting the best out of Jack Harrison. Jack Harrison can be a very technical winger, and he's, it's the ball control. Like when he's in possession of the ball, he can be very good on the ball, and in the past has been able to whip a good crossing from that left hand side. But he's just purely not been utilised for his strengths whatsoever, and seems to be a shell of his former self. I can't give him any more than I'm torn between a 4 and a 4.5. Yeah, I don't know. I can't justify anything higher. And again, you could argue that he's had relatively limited minutes because he's not been able to get ahead of Okafor or Brendan Aronson, of all players. But again, has Aronson played purely because of the fact that we haven't had James and Nonto available? Possible. Do I give Jack a 4 or a 4.5? I'll give him a 4.5 on the basis that his game time has been relatively similar to the other backups so far. But the thing is with Harrison, we know there's a player in there if he can find that form that he had. But again, he was being coached by Bielsa. Now he's being coached by Farker. There's no comparison. Anyway, moving on. Anton Stark. Difficult one this, because he started the season well, got a goal and assist very early on. But he's had little niggles with hand injuries as much as anything, and obviously now he's out with concussion. Quite a bit of money spent on Stark, about £17 million, £18 million. Was our second most expensive signing after Okafor, and he hasn't hit the heights yet, has he really? Due to the early promise that we've seen from him, I will give him a 6. I think it would be a little harsh to go below a 6. It's got to be at least a 5.5, hasn't it? If we're saying 4.5 for the likes of, Bornau and Biol, and 5 for Perry and 5.5 for Justin, Yeah, I'll give Stack a 6. I'll give him a 6 out of 10 due to the early promise that he showed. I'm hopeful that we get more out of Anton as the season goes on. Longstaff, again, shown quite a few moments where he looks a very capable midfielder. Has he done more than Stack? A little bit, I would say. So I'll go, but 6.5 seems a little high. I'm going to go 5.5 for Stack, and I'll go 6 for Longstaff. I'm rejigging that a little bit. Noah Okafor, quite clearly our most creative outlet so far this season. Has a couple of goals to his name. I think he might have an assist as well. And certainly, seems to be our most creative player at this moment in time. And I'll just give him a 6.5 straight in. I think there'll be more from him. If Farker lets him, he can be a bit wasteful in possession sometimes. He can lose possession a bit too much. But when he's in that final third, when he is creating, when he is running with the ball, looks a technical player, and capable of scoring some goals. So I'll go 6.5 for Okafor. As I say, I think our left side, despite the recent criticism that came from Farker himself about our left side, I think that Goodmanson and Okafor could be a very healthy left side for Leeds United as the season goes on. Finally, the 2 free transfers. Okafor was bought for 19 million as well, 12 million for Longstaff, which again I think I think 12 million for Longstaff's quite a reasonable price. 19 for Okafor. Let's see how that is later on in the season. It's slightly steep, but again, you're paying more money for a more creative outlet. So maybe 19's not terrible. You've got the 2 strikers who both came in as free transfers. Calvert-Lewin, not great from a goal scoring point of view, but has started most of the matches this season so far. But with only 1 goal to his name, it's not great on the scoring front. Definitely provides a very physical presence. You can tell he's got a striker's instinct in terms of being a nuisance for defenders and things like that. We've just and he's bulked up and all. Like his recent interview that he did, he's ripped. You know what I mean? So there's a physical presence there with Calvert-Lewin, but needs to score more. When he plays, he's got to put away some of these chances that he's getting. I'll come back to the rating for Calvert-Lewin. With Mecha, I think for the limited minutes that he's on 3 goals now. Very nicely taken penalty, very good goal. His first open play goal was a very good one. Really nice strike. And then his third goal, a relatively straightforward goal. But the fact remains is that he's on 3 goals with limited minutes so far in comparison to Calvert-Lewin. So for sake of a free transfer, I'll go 6.5 for Mecha, and I'll go 6 for Calvert-Lewin, which is probably a little generous for Calvert-Lewin, I think, because of the lack of goals that he's scored for the time he's been on the pitch. Whereas with Mecha, do I go 5.5? Is 5.5 harsh for Calvert-Lewin with what he's done so far? Is 6.5 a little high for Mecha? Should he be closer to a 6? I don't think Mecha could have done much more with the time he's been given, so I think 6.5 is kind of reasonable. And then, as I say, I think maybe a 6 for Calvert-Lewin's a little generous. Again, there's scope for maybe a 5.5 for Calvert-Lewin. But I'll leave it there, folks. Let me know your thoughts on the ratings I've given these players, and put your own ratings of how these players have done so far this season. Put your general thoughts in the comments down below as well. Do please give the video a like. Do hit the hype button as well, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But yeah, be interested to see what your ratings are for these players. And with all that being said, obviously got a match against Manchester City happening tomorrow. Let's hope we don't get mauled. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Bye for now.